Hi guys, Thogrey here for a new video, and this video will be the ultimate class picking guide for Season of Mastery, a seasonal server. It will only last 1 year, then get transferred to Classic Era, and I hope to TBC, but we will see. But so you will need to decide which main class you are going to roll for the server, which class you are going to go for R14 for example, or for the best MC speedrun that you want to do. Whatever you want to achieve on Classic you can do with your main class, but let's decide which class you could play for Season of Mastery. Before we start, please like the video if you like the format, if you like the video itself, but also subscribe to the channel. It's free, it helps me a ton, more than you know. I really appreciate every subscriber that actually subscribes to the channel. It's really fantastic, and we try to achieve our goals to 500 subscribers, and hopefully the higher we go, the higher the expected goals are. So thank you for watching this video, thank you for clicking on the video, and let's try to help you choose your class. So let's start with the warrior. Warriors are the juggernaut, the behemoth, the legend class from vanilla. One of the most ultimate DPS classes in the game, has insane scaling, and of course is by far the best tank of the game. Let's start with PvP. In BGs you can be the BG hero you always dreamt to be. In BGs you can rely on friends, comrades, healers to actually help you approach enemies and decimate them. Of course, when getting CC'd it can be quite a challenge and quite frustrating, but oh boy, if you achieve the unthinkable and actually be near your targets, they would wish to be amazed that they could stop you. In World PvP it is quite the opposite. You have some good matchups, but really if you are facing the wrong classes it would be mission impossible to kill them. Let's not start that we are actually speaking here if you are the one to engage them. If they engage you, you might already prepare your tombstone. In PvE you still are one of the best DPS of the game. We need to see how world buffs affects the overall long-term DPS, but in my estimates warriors will still be ahead of hunters and consorts. For tanking, long story short, you will be in demand, and of course people will promise you gear to get you in their guild. Rogues will be truly the king of Season of Mastery. The 0.5 tier set is available from launch, and which means that any rogue that is capable to farm that set and have the full piece, which is quite a bit of RNG to get those pieces, will have their power level multiplied by a ton. Rogues, one of the scummiest classes in PvP and one of the most burstiest classes in PvE. Truly, if you want to play a rogue, it is definitely a great choice. Want to be the king of world PvP? You can. Want to be the top DPS on the charts? You can. Want to actually dominate BGs? For sure you can. People will sweat if they see you in stealth nearby them. You can play dagger rogue, you can play sword rogue, you can even play mace rogue for all I care. You will still dominate the BGs and the world PvP department. If you want to play a rogue and actually perform on them, it is definitely possible. Many reasons indicates that it is the winner of Season of Mastery. World buffs gone, they will probably overtake warriors. The only question would be if warlocks or mages are going to be the king of DPS or not. It all depends about how well aggro will get dealt with. Paladins are the best PvP healers and very close to be the best healer in raids. It has insane utility, survivability and anti-pressure tools. In PvP you can also play Retribution and also Holy of course and be fine. You will need to rely on a lot of procs to make up the lack of spells you have. Again, Paladins are one of the most underrated classes of Classic, especially speaking for the DPS compartments. In 1v1s you are one of the best classes in the game. In raids you will still be expected to heal, since tanking is unreliable without a taunt, and DPS will be actually lackluster, especially with Season of Mastery where fights are longer, you will have less mana to spend on. The gear scarcity will not help you as a Retribution Paladin to get gear, so I would suggest you to try to reach the highest rank possible for the gear, but also hope for some good two-hander to drop, and hopefully your guild don't really need those two-handers for warriors or hunters, for example. So hopefully as a retribution paladin you will get that two-hander that drops in NC or BWL. If you want to play a paladin and play retribution, it is all fine. It has a great class fantasy, actually great PvP matchups, especially in world PvP. In general, people won't like to engage versus you. Since you are a true hassle and annoyance to kill, you are the penultimate survival class. Shaman, the horde class, one of the most versatile classes of the game. You can heal, DPS and even tank some dungeons, and for real, let's try to have shamans tank dungeons for a bit more than only a few silly low level dungeons. You will still be expected to heal in raids, but whatever, you might have a shot of being the elemental shaman of the raids. Enhancement is quite of a hassle. It is pretty much charity what the raids does, and I don't know if you even get some gear for it, but the DPS is not that bad. It is actually a mana hungry spec elemental, but it kinda holds him back, so we will see how it does in Season of Mastery. But as a healer you will have a lot of variety. You have totems, heals, AoE heals, shocks, bolts. You have everything to entertain yourself with. It is one of the most aggressive healers in PvP. Being able to have Elemental Fury and also have NS will make you able to burst targets down in a second, in a minute. And of course you have the ability to save people with insane burst heals. If you want to be the BG hero that you always wanted to be, you can play Elemental and style on them noobs. You can also go and be the big two-hander dude, the enhancement god, that Wind Fury people down. That's also possible. You still need gear for that, but it is possible. Lots of variety that actually will make this class the best class if you want to have some variety in the gameplay department. I will go for Shaman in Season of Mastery. It's an excellent choice and for sure the most fun for me. World PvP, you can probably one-shot people as an elemental, but you are a very cooldown reliant class. A rogue who could stun lock you if you aren't prepared, and you might die very quickly. Mages though will hate you, warlocks will hate you, and even priests that thought they would be the king of 1v1s, you will reliably dispel them and kill them with your wrath. Druids, the most versatile class of the game. It can heal, DPS and tank, and frankly enough it is the most underrated class of the game, with of course the Paladin. Really, the Druid will be expected to tank or heal in raids, but you can manage to have competitive DPS as a cat Druid, but you will have to grind those MCPs. Those MCPs are really annoying to grind, and frankly enough, if you are courageous enough to be competitive, you will have to work 10,000 times harder than any other class, but you can also find satisfaction with it. As a healer, you can drop big heals, big heals, and for real, you are the most useful class in the raids. You can BR, you can tank a few hits if needed, and have an easier time getting those tier sets. It is also the less played class of the game, so for gearing it will be quite easy to do. A lot of people will want you into their raids for the buffs, but also for the BR, and also the possibility to be versatile in a raid setting. PvP, you can be the best flag carrier of the game, and frankly enough it can get noticed pretty quickly how a Druid can be a big stomper in BGs. You can also have fun as a boomkin and also as a feral Druid, but remember, ferals are not the great scaling class that they could be in other expansions. The more gear people have, the less effect you have as a cat Druid. You have lots of builds that makes your gameplay actually change every time. I have played Druid in Classic, and for real it is a class that I am in love with. It might be frustrating for people wanting to DPS in raids though. World PvP, you are the best world PvPer. Nothing can actually stop you in pure 1v1. You can win versus any class. It is just a long fight though. You will never one-shot actually people that know how to play the class and the game, but those fights, they are magic. 1v1ing someone down and actually get the kill as a druid is one of the most satisfying things that you could do as a druid, and in contrary, a rogue will never have that satisfaction of actually killing someone, since in one stun lock you might kill anyone, while as a druid you will need to work for those kills. You will need to kite, you will need to moonfire them, insect swarm them, try to heal yourself, go back in as a bear, let's go in cat form, try to get some dots. I mean, there's lots of possibilities you can do as a druid. Hunter, I think the winner of Season of Mastery as a hunter. You don't really need world buffs to actually perform. Your DPS will probably stay the same, and for real, it is the class that has such a high scaling, like a high skill ceiling. It is actually very interesting to master. It is easy to play, but the mastering of a hunter or how you play a hunter is very noticeable. The difference between a good hunter and a bad one, especially in PvP, is to be seen from a mile away. You know, some hunters are just godlike in 1v1s. They could turn any situation to their favor. The hunter is also one of the easiest classes to gear. As a hunter, you have pretty much your biz gear in Molten Core and BWL, but most notably the tier 1 set is perfect for PvE, but also for PvP. Your damage is from the get-go one of the highest DPS in raids. You are less gear dependent than rogues and of course warriors. If you want to have fun in PvP but also in PvE, with for example melee weaving, which actually adds some flavor to the class, it can also for sure be a top DPS. I can for sure recommend hunters. In world PvP, you are the most sneakiest class in the game with rogues. For sure you can hunt your targets down and make them bleed their eyes out. Mage. Mages are the best caster class with the Warlock. It has a boring raid damage rotation though, but can be incredibly satisfying to play in PvP. Again, the skill ceiling is high for a mage. You can learn new tricks, new things to use in PvP, and always be surprised at how well you will need to execute them. You are the king of PvP though. You counter rogues and warriors pretty hard, and those two classes will probably be the most played classes in Season of Mastery. You can be Frost and be the Kite Master, or you can always try out the Pump Pyro Mage, the 3-minute mage that actually kills everyone every 3 minutes. Of course, there is not a lot to say about that class. It is quite straightforward in comparison for TBC and Wrath of the Lich King, for example, those mage classes. Since really they shine at everything they do, PvP, PvE, leveling, raids, dungeons, everything. PvP, they are actually annoying to deal with, and PvE, you are actually so useful for your buffs, water, and even your DPS. Leveling will be super fast, same rate as a hunter, because of your actually ability to AoE grind and AoE level with people. If you like mage classes, actually I can only recommend them. They are the penultimate caster class if you really want the most mobile caster that you can have on Classic, with balanced rules of course. Warlocks. Warlock is the most fun caster class in my opinion. It has a lot of specs that you can actually use in PvE and PvP. If you want to play SM Ruin, if you want to play Dots, if you want to play a pure conflag class, you can do a lot of things in PvP, also a lot of things in PvE. Every pet also gives you some flavor. With the removal of the debuff limit, you can also try to play with dots in raids and see how your DPS will be affected. The Warlock has one true enemy, and it is the rogues in PvP. But as a Warlock, you have a lot of tools to actually deal with any class. If you're versus a rogue and you have a succubus out, when they stun lock you, you can seduce them, and they are kinda dead if they do that. So you have actually a lot of tools. It has also a bit of a boring rotation in raids if you're only shadow bolting, but in PvP you might be surprised at the amount of keybinds you will need to perform. Every pet has an advantage but also a disadvantage. If you have your succubus out, you won't have a silence and not a great self shield ability that you could have with the Voidwalker. But with the succubus you have charm, which helps you to deal with rogues, for example, or even mages of anyone. So there is a lot of flavor in pets. World PvP will be good, since actually if you land a fear, you might actually just run and do your other things, since your enemy is probably dead by this point. Such a great class to play, and I can only recommend Warlocks if you are actually ready to play one of the most immobile classes of the game, but lord, they are very fun to play. Last but not least, Priests. Priests are the best healer class, but also one of the best PvP classes with Shadow. As a Shadow Priest, you can decimate any target you want. The only issue that you could have as a Priest would be your mana, but in a technical 1v1, you have lots of tools to deal with any classes. In raids, you will be expected to heal, but you might be the lucky Shadow Priest that the raids needs for buffing the Warlocks. The debuff cap is actually removed, which means that you are, as a Shadow Priest, might have some decent damage on raid boss fights. Again, the only issue is the mana problems that a Shadow Priest might have. As a healer, you are one of the best raid healing classes, but also you are super useful for your buffs and utility overall. I can recommend to play a Dwarf Priest for their Fear Ward, but if you are playing Horde, you have two great choices, race wise, the Undead and the Troll Priest. Choose wisely. I would recommend Priest if you want to be a great healer in raids, and of course I would recommend Shadow Priest if you want to be the PvP god that you always wanted to be. So that is the ultimate class picking guide for Season of Mastery. At each section about each class you will get some gameplay, but also an overview of the talents that I would pick for PvP. Myself, I'm more of a PvP guy. I'm still going to raid every week, but my main occupation would be to get the highest rank possible. Thank you for watching the video. I appreciate you. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet, and it helps me a ton. You know, it is what it is, and I wish you are actually having a very good day. Bye.